All right, welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and begin. This is our presentation on dynamic forms and SharePoint. My name is Will Cooper. I am a SharePoint solutions developer. I focus on SharePoint and I've been doing SharePoint consulting for more than 10 years. Additional to that, I work on all kinds of things in the Microsoft ecosystem. I have a YouTube channel called SharePoint Smart. You might check that out if you're interested in learning videos about cool things that you can do in SharePoint. Additional to my work with Infowise, I also run a SharePoint subscription service called SharePointDashboards.com. That's something I'm going to talk a little bit more on after our main presentation. About Infowise. Our philosophy is to make it simple and easy for our customers. And also, we're all about continuous improvement. So we're always trying to look for ways to make our tools work better and easier and add features and functions that will help our customers build great solutions. Ultimate Forms is a full solution toolkit that you can add to SharePoint. Everything that you do will be directly in the SharePoint user interface. And very importantly, this allows you to do this with no code. You don't have to be a developer or a programmer or anything like that in order to do any of the functionality that I'm going to demonstrate. And as I mentioned after our main presentation, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about SharePoint Dashboards, which is another cool SharePoint tool that you could use along with that. Whoops, I wasn't showing my screen that I intended to. Okay, there we go. All right, Ultimate Forms is available for both SharePoint Online and for on-premise SharePoint. So regardless of which version of SharePoint you're using, you can use the tools and accomplish everything that I'm going to show. This is the way that I tend to think of SharePoint out of the box. There's a lot of possibilities, but it's hard to do everything that you want to do without some additional functionality. And that's really the purpose of Ultimate Forms. It is to augment your SharePoint environment and allow you to do those things that you need to do for your business and have lots of great tools available to you. So let's focus now on dynamic forms and key concepts related to that. Forms should respond to each user input. So this is pretty easy to think about. A static form is just a form where you just go through and fill out fields and nothing changes on your screen until maybe right at the end when you hit submit. There's nothing happening. It's boring to look at. It's not a very good user experience. It's the way that forms used to be. It's not what we want. A dynamic form is responsive, and that means that the information displayed to the user is changing according to what they're putting into the form. It's guiding them, it's giving them feedback, and it's creating a user experience that's going to make a lot more sense and be more positive for that user. So I'm sure we can all relate to this experience. You're filling out a long information form on a website. You go to submit, and then you get smacked on the wrist. You didn't do this, you didn't do that, or even worse, you're having to scroll through the form to try and figure out what it is that you missed. It's not apparent. I think we can agree that's a bad user experience. So what we're going to be looking at today is all about making sure that we don't punish our users. We want to help them. We want them to feel good and have positive interaction. Okay, so this is more the nature of the form that we should be trying to do. We should have a form that guides the user and provides helpful information during the process as they're completing information. All right, so let's talk about the 10 commandments, as I say, for dynamic forms. Things that you should strive to accomplish with your forms, and then I'll show you specific examples and talk about how you can make sure that you do that. We want to show and hide content in the form conditionally according to what the user's putting in there. So I certainly don't want to ask questions that aren't relevant according to some of the user response, and then I may have additional sections that I need to show. Now in the past, you'd have to do this kind of functionality through custom scripting or programming, and for many of us that's not an option, or we don't have the time to do something like that. The tools that I'm going to show allow you to do that with no code. We want to have form information displayed one section at a time. Do not present your users with a wall of fields. It's overwhelming and you're going to lose user engagement. People are going to bail out and just not even fill out the form. You want to just show bite-sized pieces, a wizard, if you will, just one step at a time. We want to make sure we provide real-time validation. What I showed in my previous slide, this is what you should not do. You should be showing your user that they're putting in correct data as they're filling out the form so that there's not a surprise and they don't get smacked on the wrist when they hit the submit button. So we need a method to show that visually. And I say green is good. You'll see what I mean about that in a second. A progress bar is good because it shows us where we are in the process, and it provides a means of encouragement. It shows me that I'm making my way through the process to submit my form. It's a very good thing to include in your form. You should be accommodating to your users. You should avoid forcing them to do something that they may want to do. You want to provide alternatives. An example of an alternative resolution path, if it was a customer service form, we may want to allow them for the opportunity for a phone call. We're trying to accommodate our customer. We're not trying to force them to do something our own particular way. We may prefer a certain path. We can encourage that, but you should still provide a means of alternative resolution. And I'll show you a way you can do that. There should be clear help, but only when needed. So this is what I like to call baked-in help or baked-in instructions. You should have a clear explanation. Of course, you're trying to avoid confusion and provide clarity to your users about anything that might be not obvious in terms of the information they're filling out. We want to make sure we're only asking for relevant data. Depending on what they're putting into the form, some questions don't apply. So this plays into the showing and hiding fields according to the user input. Look for ways to let the form do the work. An example of this would be defaulting in the current user's name or looking up information for them. They're going to be frustrated if they're having to provide information that they would expect that you already know. So just make sure that you're doing all the work you can for them to provide ease of use. Overall, make sure this is a positive interaction for the user. It should provide a good user experience. It should encourage them and show progress. There's a term in software development. It's referred to as gamification, making something like a game. All of us, to some extent, like to play a game from time to time. And if you think of how a game works, you score points, you have things like this. There's a psychology here in terms of how people interact with computer programs. And so you're looking to provide a positive experience, something that's rewarding them in a way, showing them progress. And then at the very end, be sure to provide a friendly confirmation. Don't just dump them out to a home screen or something like that. That's an abrupt experience, and then I may wonder, did I submit that information correctly? Make sure there's a confirmation screen to thank them for the information, to let them know they did exactly what they need to do, and then maybe provide expectations on when they may get a response, that type of thing. So all these things are going to provide a much better experience for your users. All right, so here we are, SharePoint Online, and I've got a regular team site in SharePoint, and I'm going to go to this list called information requests. And very simply, I'm just going to go and put a new request in, and we're going to look at some of the features and functions that are in this form. So we're going to look at it first from a user perspective in terms of what their experience is like, and then we're going to look at it from a setup experience in terms of how I set up that functionality and how you can set up that same functionality using the tools that I'll show. Okay, so this is an information request, and this is something you could surface to a public website. And I'll talk about some of the functionality that's in the form. Now, the first thing I do, I'm asking them for general information about the request. Notice I'm only presenting 3 fields initially. That goes into what I mentioned about spoon feeding. Make sure that you provide them just a little bit of information at a time. This is inviting to the user because it looks like I don't have to do very much at all. This is not overwhelming to me. Now, I did ask in the beginning, do you want to leave a voice message? Some users, even though I've only presented the short information, may really want that. I'm giving them an alternative path. I'm being kind to my user and providing them an alternative option. So if I do that, they can, bail out of the form if they needed to and call. Now, I still may like for them to fill out the form, but again, we're trying to think about providing the best customer service experience in this situation. So it just gives them a phone number. They can cancel out the form. If they're fine with the form, of course, they'll just proceed with that and say, no, I'm fine with filling out the form. And notice I've got a red halo, if you will, around these boxes, and it tells me I still need to fill that out. Now, you may notice when I started typing, something happened immediately. My red halo turned to green, and it's basically saying, yes, that's right, you provided information in the field, and it's showing a contrast now because the other fields still have red. It helps me understand, I still need to fill that out. So you can see my forms changing according to my inputs, real time. Now you'll notice there is a progress bar showing at the top, and as soon as I filled in all my required fields on this request section, it immediately shows, now you're ready to move on to the next step. Also, I've got in here, a summary just telling them what we're doing. Please describe what you need. It's providing kind of a dialogue, if you will, a friendly dialogue to explain what we're doing. Okay, so now I can click next, and it's ready for details. Give us some more details, just one field. As you can tell, this is very bite-sized. It's very focused. I don't have any confusion about where I need to be looking on the screen and what I need to do. All right, so I want a price quote. So I've got these options. These icons are something you can do just to provide a little bit more variety in terms of the visual. That's optional. Now, this is some of showing conditional sections. Now, because I picked price quote, it's showing information specific to that. If I had selected billing instead, I would just move on to the next step. So the form is responding and it's aware of what kind of request this is, and it's just going to show the appropriate form section according to what I need. So if I do price quote, then it knows, I need to get some follow-up information just about that. But it wouldn't be asking me this information unless it's that type of request. So this is kind of a branching path, if you will. So in here it says, okay, well, what's the category for that? So I'll pick hardware, and then I will be going on to the next section over here. And I should have mentioned in the beginning, if you do have questions, go ahead and put them into the Q&A section in the Teams webinar, and we'll do our best to try to help you out with that. Okay, there's a question of, can you do a tab instead of bar? Most certainly you can. I'll show you when I come to the development interface. That came from Fabian. I'll show you exactly how you have different options. You can do accordion sections, tabs, progress bar. There's all kinds of different ways you can do it. You have total control over that. Now this is what's called a cascading lookup, or at least that's the term I favor. And the options in the product are filtered according to what I pick. So if I picked service, notice I've got these options, bronze, diamond, gold, platinum, etc. But if I pick hardware, notice that this product refreshes. So this is an example of where I'm helping the user. I don't want to bombard them with a list of all of the different product offerings. I'm trying to save them some work. So this cascading lookup can do that. So now I've got all green boxes. I'm a good person. I've done what I'm supposed to do. And only at that stage does it open the door for me to go to the next step, which is contact info. So I just click next, and I can see I'm making progress. That makes me feel good as a user. Okay, this is easy. I'm not having a hard time. I can kind of see that I'm very quickly getting through this. And this is better than if I just showed them all of this at one time. Okay, and then in the phone number field, you can do what's called input masking, and I'm doing this to help clean up our data. It's only going to take number inputs. You can't tell it right now, but I'm typing other letters, and it's not taking those. It automatically blocks that. So this is just a good way to clean up your data. I'll show you how that's set up. Again, you don't have to do any code to do that. Now, I'm not forcing them to do address information, but if they do fill it in, I'm still going to go ahead and give them those green boxes. All right, and now it's opened up the last step. So I just click next, and I'm kind of getting some friendly messages. Again, we're trying to have a light tone and have a good experience for that user. So contact preference, how do you want to hear back from us? I'd like you to email or give me a call or whatever the case may be. And then here we've got a source. How did you hear about us? Well, I heard about you in a web search. Here's another example. Oh, we would like to know what you were looking for. So we ask them about that, but only in the case that I did web search. If it was something else, then I don't show that. So these conditional sections can be very handy for you. Okay, now the save button only showed because I have all of my required data. So I only present that to user once they're there. So this is avoiding that situation where they're trying to save out of the form before they put everything in there. That's a bad user experience. All right, so now I've got a confirmation. Hey, thanks for contacting us, Will Cooper. That's dynamic. It came from the name that they entered in the first form. It gives me an expectation when I should hear back about it. I didn't just get sort of shoved off a cliff, if you will, just sent back to a home page somewhere. I actually got a message that's telling me you're good to go. You did what you're supposed to. We got your request. You get back. This is the kind of form experience that you want to strive for with your users. Why would it be that we don't have those type of things? To me, I think it's largely because in the past, it's been difficult to set up this kind of functionality, and that's really the part that I want to focus on now. I want to talk about how it is that you can do this without being a developer, because all of these features and functions that I showed are easy to set up with our tools. So I'm here in our Form Designer tool, and I'm going to kind of show you how the setup works. So as I was asked about earlier in the presentation, we have a tabs control, and it just happens that I'm using the progress bar theme, but you can, if you wish, instead go to a tab control like this if you wish. That's perfectly acceptable. You just do it through configuration options up in the menu, and that's all there is to it. Now, a lot of the dynamic forms really has to do with showing and hiding areas of the form according to what's in the form as the user fills it out. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to set up those roles. Okay, so let's look at this voice message thing. I've got this container here, and I ask them, did you want to just call us instead, basically? And they're going to click a button, and they're going to say, if they click that button, I've got this field that I put into my form for the call, and it's going to set that to yes or no. So they just click the button, it changes that. You can think of it like a variable. And then I just say, I want to show this if call's blank. Like until they answer that question, I want to show this section. If that's not true, like basically when the form opens, this is blank, there's no value set by the user, then it's going to show that. And then I've got this call information section, and that just shows up whenever they say, yeah, I did want to call you instead. I don't want to fill out the form. So you just put in a role, a permissions role. It's very simple and easy to understand. I just can put a description up here and I say, I want this is called a fragment. I want this to appear, but only in case with this condition. I go to this drop down, these are all my SharePoint fields, and I say when call is yes. So this is handled dynamically, as you saw in my demonstration. It will pop into view only when that's yes. If it's no or blank, then it's just not going to show up. So there's a lot of that in the setup of the forms, and it's very easy to repeat. Now, another part of it was what I was showing in terms of a real-time data validation concept, and I'm handling that through styles rules. And just like what I showed above, I want to, I call it a halo effect. I want to have a red halo until they've done what they're supposed to do, and a green halo once there's some data in the field. And that was really easy to set up. So I just said I want a red border when the request field is blank. This is the required field. I know I need to get it from them. If it's blank, I don't have what they need. So that's all I did. I just said request equals blank, then I want that red border. Didn't have to write any code. I just used that drop-down picker to do it. And then I just have the inverse of that, right? If request is not blank, that means they put something in there, they filled out that field, I want a happy halo, the green border around the outside. And so you have this color picker in here. You can pick whatever colors you like. If you prefer a different color, you just pick your color and hit save and close. I don't want to save the color change, but you get the idea. And then it's just rinse and repeat. So it's very fast. Just click, click, click to create the rules, and I can work my way through each of these sections in the form to do that. Now, in my form designer, I'm going to see everything, of course. So I have all these components, and then what I'm doing is, as I set up these rules, I just check that out. I just put in a test form, start filling out information just to confirm that it's going to do what I think it's going to do. So in this one, I was checking to see what kind of request is this. So I have this field called category, and I want to know, well, what kind of category is it? So these were the options: is price quote, technical specification, support, billing, or other. So depending on what the answer here, then I'm going to show this other stuff. Okay, so again, it's just these read-write rules. I say, well, I want to show this help message if the category is price quote or if the category is technical specifications. I don't have to be a programmer to understand this. This is the kind of thing where otherwise you might have to be doing JavaScript or some kind of custom programming or something like that to create this functionality. This is really fast and simple to apply these rules. Every element in the form you can apply these rules to. I can do permissions rules, or I can do style rules like that. Okay, and then contact info, similar kind of thing. Now what's cool is you can easily set up these multi-column containers. So of course I don't need to have a field stretching all the way across the screen for the city. I can kind of put those side by side, right? I didn't have to do any CSS to do that. I can just come up here and I can go to this columns and I can just slide it to what I want, and what you see is what you get. So these multi-column layouts are really easy to accommodate. All right, and then the save button. I don't want to show that to the user until they filled everything out. Remember, we're trying to avoid this thing where they try to click the save button and they can't save yet. In a static form, you just see the save button at the bottom, and that's where you get slapped on the wrist. It says you can't save yet. That's what we're trying to avoid. How did I deal with making sure they put in the required data? Well, I put in a bunch of stuff here. These are all the fields in the form that I know that I need to get in order for them to make a submission to me. And so I just made it where it's only going to appear as long as there's data in all of those required fields. That way I don't have them trying to see a save button prematurely. They'll know. So they'll be just using this previous next until they get there. Okay, additional to that, we need to have a nice confirmation page. You want to say, thank you, we got your information. We're trying to avoid that abrupt, as I call it, push them off a cliff. That's easy to do. It's inside of the form designer. You just click on thank you page. It's always there for you. And then you can, this is static content because this is just a confirmation, a friendly confirmation that just tells them that their information has been submitted successfully. That's all there is to it. And then at the bottom or top of my form, I just put, a friendly image just to provide kind of a more of a branded, user-friendly experience. So that's really pretty much everything needed for that validation experience. Now, you can actually enforce validation rules additional to what I showed. So if I go back to the form, I can do conditional validation. I'll give you an example of that real quick. So product category is an example of that. And this is conditional validation. What is that? It just means that it's a rule that you only want to enforce on certain conditions. So it's not only the fact that I need to show product category for price quotes, technical specifications, I need to make sure that they put in a value. So there is, besides the UI validation, the halo effect as I call it, you've also got true validation, which will ensure that the form is going to get that data. That's stacked on top of it as well. Okay, so that's it. That's pretty much everything I wanted to show you. This session is recorded. If you want to play it back later, we always post our webinars on YouTube. And what's really cool is we're going to make this available for you, and you can download and interact with the form that I'm showing after our session today. The way that you can do that is to install our free trial software, which is our full software, free for 30 days. And then once you're in there, you can later go to Solution Catalog and then click on Webinars. And we always load into that. You can see all our recent webinars are in that screen. You can download it and download this site, and then that way you can tinker around. You can get into this form that I created, check out the functionality, play around with it, and use it kind of like a sandbox so that you can learn how to apply these same settings yourself. All right, so as I mentioned, getting the trial software is really easy. If you go to the Infowise Solutions site, you can just click Try Now for free, and then you can, the best option is to get it installed in your environment. To do that, if you click Install Now, if for any reason you're waiting or want something faster, we do provide online trial sites within our own tenant if you just want to go that route. That's the first box over here, so easy to sign up. Now, once you're in there, you might feel like, geez, where do I start? If you're brand new to Ultimate Forms and you've never used it before, we do provide a Kickstart training. It is for brand new users, and it walks you through and shows you how to do everything step by step with screenshots, or you can do it over a video if you want. So you can go watch the video by clicking there, or you can go to our tutorial section, and we have step-by-step instructions there. So if you go to tutorials, it's called Kickstart Training. You can just walk through and it'll tell you all the steps. So if you're brand new to Form Designer and just want a guide just to help you for that first experience, I certainly recommend that. Additional to that, we have instructor-led training. We've got all kinds of documentation to help you understand our tools and how to get started. And then, of course, additional to that, we have lots and lots of example solutions, as I mentioned. You can install any of those templates, which are all example solutions, things that you can use in your own environment. So you can look under Infowise Solutions or Infowise Webinars. You can see lots of interesting examples of things you can build with our software. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to questions in chat. If you have any questions about how to get started, how to use this functionality, now is the time to get those questions in the Q&A section, and that way we can try to help you out. Somebody asked if it's an InfoPath form or Power Apps. Neither one. This is software called Infowise Ultimate Forms. You can find out more about it at infowisesolutions.com. This is an add-in product that you can add to SharePoint. Okay. Good questions. If you have any more questions, keep them coming. I'm going to watch the Q&A section. I'm going to go on and talk about some additional content now. Okay, so along with Ultimate Forms, there is a dashboards platform, which is something that I work on myself. It's called SharePointDashboards.com. And this is something like Ultimate Forms. You can try this for free. If you click on Get Started, you can go to this page, and there are 160 different formatting templates you can use to create different kinds of SharePoint dashboards. This is all about visual indicators to show progress and status on various different types of tools that you have inside of your SharePoint environment. So to get started, you just click on sign up for 21 free templates. It'll give you a short little form to fill out. You just put in your name and email address and hit submit, get your login, and then you can use all these templates that are shown on the screen for free. I'm going to do some demonstration for you now of how these work, different things you can do, that type of thing. I'm going to start out, I'm going to show you an example of a discussion board template. This is a SharePoint list with a formatting template on that. If you're interested in having some kind of discussion board inside of your SharePoint environment, this is something you can add. The idea here is you can allow for your community to be able to put posts, interact with each other about events or training information or just different activities going on in your organization. So it's pretty easy to use. Users can just go in here and make comments and hit submit, and it just puts in their name and their comment in the top. The original post shows on the top. You can see the number of comments appear in the top, and then you've got color coding for different categories. You can collapse those in and out using the accordion control in the upper right. This is just an example of one of those templates that you can use. Another one that's really popular are Gantt charts, and this will let you just take a SharePoint list with start and end date and color coding, and you can show it in a Gantt chart style view. So I'll show you how you can adjust the dates, the color control. So if I put a different end date, let's change that to 5/28. You'll see the bar change. Now it says 118 days. That's auto calculated, and then also have the ability to override the color and put whatever I want. There you can see the color change real time. So really easy to do. These are just different examples of formatting templates that you can use. There's lots of button templates. So one thing you might have noticed in my presentation, I had an edit button that I showed in the list. That's probably the one I use more than any other template. So if I go back over here, notice that little edit button. Well, that's something that SharePoint doesn't include as a view option anymore, not in modern list views. And obviously that's very handy because you generally want to go and edit list records. Normally you have to put a check next to it, and then you go up here and click edit. It just makes it a little easier for your users. That is an example of one of the templates. And applying the template's really easy. It's just copy and paste. So I do format this column, and then I just come over here and I can select all, paste, and then it'll go in there. So in this tool, you just select whichever template you're working on. So for example, if I was working on the edit button, which is a free one that you can get, you just come in here and there's different theme options. It gives you a preview of what it's going to look like, and then you just there's a copy button that appears. You just sign in. I'm not signed in at the moment. I'll go ahead and do that. Hit stop preview. I just pick which one I want it to look like. I hit copy. It'll give you the directions in a pop-up box. If you're using this for the first time, you can just click on video, and it'll show you a video preview if you want to see it that way too. But generally just follow the instructions, copy and paste, and that's all there is to it. So really easy. Like I say, you can sign up and have access to 21 templates, and then if you go on and subscribe, you can access all of the templates on here. So lots and lots of different options to visualize your data in SharePoint and create really great looking dashboards in SharePoint. Okay, let me return back to your questions. Do you guys have any questions about setting up dynamic forms, how to get started, anything with the dashboard templates? Any questions at all? At this point, I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording for our video.